The Andrews family was looking for a respite from their hectic lives at home. They had come to the peaceful embrace of Hanama Bay in Oahu, where azure waters gently kissed golden sands. Michael Andrews' wife, Linda, and daughter, Emily, 12, were on vacation in the summer of 2002. The Andrews were from a small Colorado town and had always dreamed about the beauty of Hawaii. The Andrews planned the trip for several months. They imagined snorkeling in the coral reefs and watching tropical fish perform. If they were lucky, they might even spot a sea turtle. The excitement was palpable as it was their first time visiting the island. The family boarded the small tour boat on a sunny Tuesday morning. The sun was casting a shimmering path across the water, promising them a guided and safe snorkeling adventure in the bay's crystal-clear waters. Emily, who was vibrant and curious, seemed to be the most excited. She was excited to see the marine life in Hawaii, which she had read about. The tour guide spoke briefly about the bay's safety and history as the boat was anchored at a calm location known for its beautiful underwater scenery. Emily listened with wide-open eyes, full of anticipation. She adjusted her fins and donned her snorkeling gear. With a reassuring nudge from her father, she entered the water. Emily was blown away by the underwater world. The schools of colorful fish swam by, unperturbed by the human intrusion in their domain. Emily floated effortlessly as she was mesmerized by the intricate patterns of the coral and an occasional glimpse at a shy, lazy eel and octopus. Michael and Linda proudly watched Emily from the boat. They took turns using the binoculars to keep her within sight. The couple was filled with joy and amazement at the beauty of this scene and Emily's bravery in taking on the challenge. The tranquility was shattered. The water was broken by a shadow, a dark, swift shape that moved straight towards Emily. Emily vanished beneath the water's surface before Michael could shout an alarm. On the boat, panic broke out. Michael dove into the water, his heart pounding from fear, while Linda screamed for help with her shrill voice. The tour guide radioed emergency services immediately and joined Michael on the frantic hunt. It was already too late. The devastating truth hit them hard when they brought Emily to the surface. She was severely injured by a shark. Emily died that day despite the quick response from the lifeguards and despite the haste to the hospital. The tragedy spread throughout the family, causing each member to be isolated by their grief. Linda retreated into silence. Her once bright eyes were now dull and distant. Michael was unable to remain still, racked with guilt and anger. The image of the shark that had stolen his daughter haunted him. Michael, unable to sleep and desperate for an answer, began researching shark attack patterns and behavior. He learned about the different species of sharks, their habitats, and what could trigger an attack. He turned his quest for knowledge into a mission to help with shark research and develop safety technologies to prevent future tragedies. As the days became weeks, their initial bond of adventure and laughter faded, replaced by a somber search for meaning in an irreplaceable loss. Michael's purpose in life was to be a beacon of light, leading them towards a path of peace. Michael Andrews spent many nights reading marine biology journals and texts. His desk was cluttered with notes and papers. He sought out experts by attending conferences and workshops on aquatic safety and shark behavior. It was not for nothing that he made the effort. Michael joined a non-profit organization focusing on shark attack prevention and marine conservation. His most important project was the development of new technologies to deter sharks. They tested various methods with scientists and engineers, from electronic barriers to chemical repellents. The goal was to find a helpful solution worldwide for making water safer for divers and swimmers. Linda was struggling with her grief as Michael immersed himself in his work. She filled notebooks with memories and thoughts about Emily. She began a blog to share her story with families experiencing similar losses over time. Many embraced her words and provided a sense of community and support she had not experienced in her darkest moments. Michael's efforts started to show some promise. The team created a new sonar device to be attached to buoys near famous beaches. This device emits unpleasant frequencies for sharks but is harmless to all other marine life. It effectively keeps them away from shorelines. Reports of shark encounters started to decline as the technology began to be implemented in different locations. The media outlets invited Michael to speak about the team's success. Michael always mentioned Emily's love of the ocean and her tragic death in his speeches. Emily's memorial plaque was installed at the water's edge in Hanauma Bay, where their nightmare began. The bay was a place where families who suffered similar tragedies could reflect and be surrounded by beauty, and Emily loved beauty. Michael and Linda returned to Hawaii as the second anniversary of Emily's death approached. The couple visited the plaque and laid flowers while watching the waves in reflective silence. They shared their story with locals and tourists, and spoke about respecting and protecting marine life. The trip was cathartic. They felt closer to Emily standing on the beach than they had for a long while. While the pain of Emily's loss would never go away, they realized that their efforts to prevent other tragedies were a way to keep their spirit alive. They were making the ocean safer, one small step at a time. Michael's technology became standard in many countries around the globe. Linda wrote a book based on her blog, which provided comfort and guidance to those experiencing grief. Michael and Linda, despite the immense void left behind by Emily's departure, found a new purpose in their lives. They were driven by their love for Emily and their desire to stop other families from suffering the same heartbreak. While they couldn't change the past, they could shape the future and honor Emily with each life they saved. The Hardy family, a quintet of adventurers seeking respite from the relentless pace of 21st century life, found solace in the azure waters of the Maldives. Amidst the chaos of the modern world, they carved out moments of tranquility, escaping to the pristine shores of Ulagan, a secluded island paradise nestled within the Maldives archipelago. With eager anticipation, the family embarked on their journey, leaving behind the hustle and bustle of everyday life for the serenity of the open sea. A short motor trip to the harbor, followed by a leisurely sail aboard their rented yacht, brought them to their destination, a secluded haven surrounded by crystal-clear waters and vibrant coral reefs teeming with life. A panorama of breathtaking beauty greeted the Hardy family as they anchored in the shallow waters, only 3 meters deep. The azure blue waters stretched before them, merging seamlessly with the endless ocean of sky above. It was a sight to behold, a reminder of the awe-inspiring power of nature and the simple joys that awaited those who dared to seek them. For Hughes and Lara Hardy and their 3 children, Gary, Hart, and Will, this was more than just a vacation. It was a chance to reconnect as a family and forge memories that would last a lifetime. As they stood on the deck of their yacht, basking in the warm embrace of the tropical sun, they couldn't help but feel a profound sense of gratitude for the opportunity to escape the hustle and bustle of their lives back home in America. But they were not alone in their quest for tranquility. As the day wore on, more yachts arrived, their sleek silhouettes dotting the horizon like sentinels of serenity. Yet, despite the influx of visitors, the seafaring travelers had an air of camaraderie, a shared understanding of the importance of slowing down and savoring simple pleasures. The family's arrival at the port of Ulagan in the Maldives was met with efficiency and warmth as officials promptly cleared them for entry. Amar, their friendly agent, facilitated the process quickly, providing them with SIM cards and ensuring their passports were stamped and validated. With the formalities swiftly concluded, the Hardy family was officially welcomed into the idyllic paradise of the Maldives. While Hughes and Lara attended to the necessary registrations, their children, Gary, Will, and Hart, eagerly anticipated their first foray into the crystal-clear waters surrounding them. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting a golden glow across the tranquil bay, the family gathered around the table in the cabin of their yacht for a simple yet satisfying dinner of freshly baked bread, a taste of home in a far-flung corner of the world. The following day, they dawned bright and clear, offering endless possibilities for exploration and adventure. Determined to connect with their fellow travelers, the Hardy family ventured out from the confines of their yacht, eager to forge new friendships and share in the camaraderie of the maritime community. Hughes's children were drawn to their counterparts on neighboring yachts as they mingled with fellow sailors, exchanging stories and laughter beneath swaying palm trees. Gary, Will, and Hart quickly formed friendships with their newfound companions, bonding over shared experiences and a mutual love of adventure. As night fell and the sky was painted with a tapestry of twinkling stars, Hart suggested a nighttime swim, an invitation eagerly accepted by his siblings. With their permission granted, the trio donned their swimsuits and plunged into the cool embrace of the sea, laughter bubbling up as they frolicked in the moonlit waters. Meanwhile, Hughes and Lara engaged in a spirited debate about the wisdom of allowing their children to venture into the water after dark. Lara, ever the protective mother, voiced her concerns about the dangers lurking beneath the surface. At the same time, Hughes argued that the children deserved the chance to enjoy themselves and cool off in the heat of the night. In the end, Lara relented, but not without trepidation. Making her way to the beamlight, she cast its beam across the water, illuminating where her children played. She watched with pride and apprehension in the soft glow of the light as Gary, Will, and Hart continued to splash and play, their laughter mingling with the gentle rhythm of the waves. As the trio frolicked in the water, their laughter mingling with the gentle lapping of the waves, they were oblivious to the danger lurking beneath the surface. Unbeknownst to them, the sound of their splashing had drawn the attention of a pack of hungry sharks, their predatory instincts honed to deadly precision. Will, the youngest of the three, first spotted the shadowy shapes gliding beneath them. His heart pounded in his chest as he realized their peril, his voice ringing out in a frantic cry of warning that echoed across the bay. "Sharks!" he screamed, words slicing through the air like a knife. Panic seized them as they scrambled to reach the yacht's safety, their limbs churning through the water urgently. But their efforts were in vain as one of the sharks closed in, its razor-sharp teeth sinking into Will's flesh with savage force, as if to scold him for letting them off. The trio rallied together in sheer terror, fighting tooth and nail to fend off the relentless predator. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, they lashed out with whatever means they had, driving the shark back with a ferocity born of survival instinct. But their ordeal was far from over. As they turned to swim back to the yacht's safety, their hopes were dashed when they discovered the ladder leading back on board had been broken, a mechanical fault overlooked in their haste to set sail. Fear threatened to consume them as they realized they were stranded in the water, vulnerable to the circling sharks that closed in with each passing moment. Hughes, their father, sprang into action, his instincts as a protector kicking into overdrive. With a strength born of desperation, he reached out a steady hand to his injured son, hauling him aboard the yacht with the help of his other children. Will's anguished cries filled the air as they tended to his wounds, applying a makeshift tourniquet to stem the flow of blood. Hart and Gary were also helped onto the yacht before the sharks could catch up. Will was taken to the hospital that night. After the harrowing incident, Lara solemnly vowed to prioritize her children's safety. With Will's receiving medical attention, the family's holiday was continued, albeit under a shadow of caution. Lara's once carefree demeanor was replaced by vigilant watchfulness, especially regarding water activities. No longer were her children allowed to venture into the water, especially at night, when dangers could lurk unseen. Dr. Fiora Singh felt excitement and apprehension as the research vessel approached their dive site on Osprey Reef, part of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. It was August 22, 2005, and the water shimmered with an increasingly rare clarity. Fiora knew this wasn't a sign of health. Beneath the surface, a silent crisis was unfolding. Coral bleaching, a devastating consequence of warming oceans, ravaged the reef system. Fiora had dedicated her career to studying this phenomenon. Her heart ached to see the once vibrant coral colonies fading to ghostly white. Their data was crucial, but it felt like documenting a dying world. Her team was a motley crew. Dr. Agustin Evans, a veteran marine biologist, carried an aura of quiet competence. Clara, Fiora's research assistant, was fresh out of university, and her enthusiasm was a vibrant contrast to Fiora's growing sense of dread. Completing the team was Jake, the boat's captain, a weathered local with a deep respect for the reef and a healthy dose of skepticism about the scientists invading his waters. Osprey Reef was known for its shark populations. Usually, their dives included respectful encounters with these predators, crucial players in the reef ecosystem. However, recent research suggested that sharks were changing their behavior in response to the environmental crisis, growing more agitated in areas with severely bleached coral. That morning, Agustin had briefed them on the elevated risk. He stressed the importance of extra caution and reinforced safety protocols. Yet, as they geared up, Fiora sensed a nervous energy undercutting the usual pre-dive focus. Clara checked her equipment with trembling fingers while Jake muttered warnings that were more than just superstition. The water closed over their heads, swallowing them into a world transformed. Fiora had swum here dozens of times, but it felt like an alien landscape. The reef looked like a graveyard, the vibrant colors she remembered replaced with stark white skeletons. Fish darted aimlessly, their usual havens gone. They focused on their tasks, laying out transect lines, photographing and recording data. Fiora tried to push away the unease gnawing at her, the sense that they were being watched. This wasn't just scientific observation anymore. It felt like an intrusion, a desperate attempt to chronicle a disaster they were powerless to halt. Time melted away in the silent world. Augustine signaled for them to start ascending. As they neared the surface, Clara pointed excitedly at a school of fish gathering nearby. Fiora turned to follow her gaze, and her heart jolted. A massive tiger shark was materializing out of the gloom, far closer than any they had encountered on this trip. The shark moved with unnerving speed and purpose, cutting through the water toward Clara. Fiora screamed a muffled warning, her bubbles rising in a frantic stream. Clara, startled, whipped around to see the sleek gray form bearing down on her. Augustine reached out in a blur of primal fear, shoving Clara from the shark's path. The shark adjusted its trajectory, its jaws snapping just inches from his outstretched arm. Fiora saw a flash of red as something tore through the water. Time splintered into fragments. Augustine recoiled, his wetsuit ripped, a spreading crimson stain blooming around his injured leg. Pain flared across his face, but his focus remained on the circling predator. The shark, seemingly disoriented by the taste of blood, thrashed against the fragile coral structures, sending clouds of silt swirling around them. Fiora frantically signaled for Clara and Augustine to ascend, desperate to reach the boat's safety. They scrambled upwards, their panicked movements in stark contrast to the precise predatory grace of the shark. Reaching the boat, Fiora and Clara hauled a bleeding Augustine on board seconds before the shark lunged, its powerful body striking the hull with a sickening thud. Jake roared the engine to life, throwing the boat into reverse and away from the frenzied predator. Shock pulsed through them. Clara sobbed, pressing a makeshift bandage against Augustine's wound. He gritted his teeth, his breathing ragged. Fiora's mind raced, the clinical detachment of a scientist cracking under the pressure. They needed urgent medical attention. Yet the thought of returning to the water after what had just happened filled her with a cold terror. Jake stared at the water where the shark still lurked, his jaw set. He called the radio for help, knowing it would mean explaining the circumstances, the scientific mission, the disturbed environment, the attack. The Coast Guard response would be swift, likely accompanied by calls to abandon the reef, to prioritize human safety over research. The sun dipped towards the horizon, casting long shadows on the churning water as they waited. Rescue came in the form of a helicopter, its rotors drowning out the gentle lap of waves they'd found so peaceful mere hours before. Augustine was winched up, his face pale against the fading light. A sense of heavy uncertainty descended as they watched him disappear. In the hospital's sterile environment, Augustine would receive treatment back on the mainland. But the questions that haunted Fiora weren't about his physical recovery. It was about the future of their research, about the delicate balance of documenting the reef crisis, while acknowledging the heightened dangers it now held. The media descended, drawn by the dramatic tale of scientists attacked during their work. Fiora fended off questions about rogue sharks and sensationalized headlines that painted the ocean as a monstrous villain. Yet she knew there were uncomfortable truths beneath the surface. The reef was sending a desperate warning, and they were caught in the fallout, not just as researchers, but as humans intruding on an ecosystem pushed to the brink. The question that echoed in her mind as she walked, the White Hospital corridors, was far more complex than she'd ever anticipated. At what cost should science pursue its quest for knowledge? False Bay, South Africa, is known for its rich marine life, dramatic coastline, and vibrant marine life. The annual whale birthing began as False Bay was a hive of activity. The bay's water, tinged with red from the plankton blooms in the bay, provided a rare sight that attracted nature lovers worldwide. Claire Hamilton, who was 6 months pregnant and a marine scientist, was among them. Despite her advanced age, her passion for marine life drove her to join the tour. This decision was met with concern from her peers. The tour boat floated gently above the water as the morning dawned. The air was filled with the salty tang from the ocean and the distant calls of seabirds. The gentle giants of the sea, the whales, moved below with grace and ease that belied their immense size. Their bodies cast large shadows on the ocean floor. Claire, equipped with a fin and snorkel, stood on the deck scanning the horizon. The guide cautioned the group to remain on the boat due to the presence of sharks, who were drawn to the area by the seals during the birthing season. The seals, combined with the natural instincts triggered by the season, attracted great white sharks to this region, making the waters particularly dangerous. Claire could not resist the lure of being so close to whales in their habitat. She slipped into the water as the group watched from the boat. Her heart was pounding and she felt a bit of defiance. As she floated in the cool water, she looked down to the ocean's depths where whales sang ancient songs. The underwater world unfolded in a dance of shifting lights and shadows. Claire moved with deliberate care, trying to create minimal disruption. In the dim waters, she could make out the imposing silhouettes of the whales, their massive forms both majestic and intimidating. She was so captivated by their presence that she failed to notice the subtle changes in her surroundings. The sudden, eerie silence and the vanishing of the smaller fish, which had accompanied her like friends, went unnoticed. Her presence altered the delicate ecosystem without her knowing. The red waters of the bay masked another resident of the bay, a great white shark. Its senses were finely tuned, and it could detect the slightest change in its surroundings. As a lone hunter, the shark patrolled along the edge of the whale group. The possibility of an easy meal triggered its instincts. The great white shark is one of the ocean's most powerful predators. The precision of its movements had been honed over millions of years by evolution. It detected Claire's movements and the electrical impulses her body sent out, an unwitting message to a creature driven by instinct. Claire was mesmerized as she floated by the whale calf a few meters away. She failed to notice a dark shape approaching below. Hunger and opportunity drove the shark to see her as a possible prey. Its usual caution was overridden by its immediate desire for food. The shark rushed up in a rush. Claire felt an immense force collide with her body as a vast shadow enveloped her. She turned in time to see a great white snarling at her, its teeth stark white against a deep red water. The attack was brutal and swift. Claire felt a sharp pain when the teeth of the shark sank deep into her leg and dragged her down. Her body shook as the shock of the attack rushed through it. Her mind was racing from panic. She struggled as her instincts of a biologist were replaced by the primal desire to survive. She struggled to escape the shark's grip. Blood dotted the water. She was horrified by the clarity of her situation as she kicked against the enormous force. She ignored the warnings and was now fighting for her life. Her actions in the water contrasted with the peaceful observation she had imagined. Claire's struggle against the great white shark became more intense as the waters of False Bay turned a crimson swirl. She had learned about shark behavior from her training as a marine scientist, which she used to try and save her life. She remembered that sometimes hitting the shark's sensitive gills or nose could deter it. She swung at the shark with all her strength, searching for any weak spot that might force it to let her go. Claire's resistance surprised the shark, who momentarily let go of her. This gave Claire just enough time to escape. She pushed herself up towards the light while her leg was throbbing with pain from the bite. Fear and adrenaline drove the woman onward, even though it seemed like a long way to go. She heard a commotion and shouts as she gasped for air. The group was in a frantic state of mind after witnessing the attack. The guide steered the boat quickly towards her. Claire waved both arms to signal for help. Her mind was focused solely on her survival. She was determined to remain conscious and alive for her unborn baby. As the shark was circling back to attack again, the boat arrived. Strong hands pulled her onto the ship, away from imminent danger. She collapsed on the deck as the relief of escaping mingled with the pain from her injuries. As the boat raced back to the shore, the guide applied a tourniquet on her leg to slow the bleeding. Now was not the time to regret, but only to take action to treat her injuries. The reality of the situation set in once again. Claire survived the attack, but its psychological effects lingered. The physical scars took a few weeks to heal, but they were not the only ones. She struggled with guilt over her decision to go into the water against her doctor's advice, and terror from the attack haunted all of her dreams. Claire returned to academia a few months later and shifted her focus to training future marine biologists. She stressed the importance of ethical research and respecting wildlife. Her personal experiences enriched her lectures, which combined scientific knowledge and the lessons she learned from her encounter with a great white. Claire's experience in False Bay changed her life in a way she never imagined. She became more determined to protect the marine environment and all its inhabitants. She was reminded of the unpredictability and power of nature by her close encounter with a shark. Her experience was a crucial part of her work. It taught her a hard lesson about balancing curiosity and respect for the natural world. Claire's efforts to promote marine conservation were influenced by her encounter with one of the ocean's greatest predators. Kevin Gilbert, a seasoned kayaker and wildlife enthusiast, set off from the Kenai Peninsula in Alaska on a crisp August morning with his kayak full of essentials for an adventure in the cold waters. The Alaskan native was excited to see the region's marine life up close. The only sounds he heard as he paddled were the splashing of his oars and distant seabirds. The calm water reflected the cloudy sky. Kevin's final destination was a small bay known for its rich biodiversity, including salmon, which attracted larger predators. Kevin finally reached the bay after steadily paddling for a few hours. He paused for a moment to take in the area's beauty. The cliffs were covered with spruces, and the water was occasionally interrupted by a fish jumping and some curious seals bouncing. He aimed to capture wildlife photos to add to his collection. Kevin saw a dark shadow rush under his kayak as he drifted. He initially thought it was a seal he'd seen earlier, but the shadow became more extensive and drove more aggressively. Unpredictably, something hit the underside of his kayak with great force. Kevin's heart pounded as he gripped his paddle tightly and struggled to maintain balance. Before he could react to the violent rocking of his kayak, another powerful blow threw him into the freezing water. He was taken aback by the shock of cold. As he struggled to find his bearings, his mind was racing. He saw the dark, large shape circle back at him. It was likely a salmon shark, mistaking his kayak for prey. Kevin knew that his survival was dependent on remaining calm. He drew on his emergency training and swam calmly to his capsized kayak. His hands trembled with adrenaline and cold as he swam to the kayak. It was a considerable effort to get back in the kayak. His muscles protested against the cold, and his fingertips felt almost frozen. His heart pounded as he kept his gaze on the shadow that circled nearby. Once seated, he used his paddle to create a gentle splash. This tactic, he had read, could deter sharks by mimicking the tail slap of large marine animals. The shark slowly disappeared into the depths, possibly because it was confused or had lost interest. Kevin did not pause to catch a breath. He began paddling vigorously toward the shore. His body was shaking uncontrollably due to the cold and residual fear. Kevin collapsed on the beach, gasping for breath as he reached the safety of shore. He lay there for several moments, letting the sun's warmth gradually restore feeling to his limbs. Kevin was terrified by the encounter, but after recovering, he began to think about what just happened. Kevin realized that his emergency response training was crucial in saving his life. He decided that other people should also benefit from his knowledge and started a community initiative focused on animal encounter safety. Kevin's harrowing ordeal inspired a new calling: to ensure that all who explore Alaska's stunning yet perilous waters are fully prepared with the essential knowledge and tools. Kevin thought of the tourists and locals who might be in the water, unaware of the dangers of not knowing how to react when encountering wildlife. Kevin decided to use his ordeal to fuel his mission of teaching others. Kevin started organizing his ideas and thoughts into a plan in the days that followed his return. Kevin reached out to community centers, kayaking groups, and schools on the Kenai Peninsula, and proposed sessions about safety and survival for outdoor sports. His initiative was immediately embraced, and he soon led his first of many outdoor sports workshops. Kevin's presentations covered various topics, including emergency response techniques and safety gear. His story was used as a case study, describing the shark encounter in vivid detail, but focusing on the actions that saved him. His first-hand account gave the workshops a sense of urgency and authenticity, which made the lessons more meaningful to his audience. Kevin also collaborated with marine scientists and safety experts to create a comprehensive guide about local wildlife, focusing on aquatic animals such as the salmon shark. These guides were given away at sports and kayak stores in the region. They also included QR codes that linked to online safety videos. Kevin initiated Safe Waters Day to increase community involvement. This annual event combines fun activities for families with educational booths and water safety demonstrations. This event became a local favorite. Families learned about Alaska's rich marine ecosystem and how to stay safe in the wild. Kevin's efforts were noticed by the local authorities. They were so impressed by his workshops that they funded his programs, including welcome packages for tourists and information at local hotels and rental shops. This endorsement spread Kevin's message even more, ensuring everyone who wanted to explore the water knew about potential dangers and what to do. Kevin's unwavering commitment to educating others transformed his traumatic experiences into a force of good and brought the community together. The community was better informed, and people were more prepared to deal with emergencies. His work was rewarded by a significant decline in wildlife-related incidents. Kevin reflected on the fateful day years later with mixed emotions. Kevin will never forget the fear of the shark's shadow looming below him. However, he is proud that his survival has been a personal triumph and a catalyst to promote community safety and awareness. His initiative grew beyond his original vision. Other communities along the coast adopted similar programs. Kevin's cold waters on the Kenai Peninsula were no longer just his personal retreat, but also a place where nature and safety could coexist. Kevin's close encounter with the sea, which nearly took his life, gave him a profound purpose. He now dedicates himself to protecting others from the dangers that lurk beneath the waves. The incident that changed Daniel's life forever occurred 5 years ago, etching itself into his memory like a scar that refused to fade. Every detail was seared into his mind, from the golden rays of the sun reflecting off the tranquil waters of the ocean to the deafening roar of the great white shark as it attacked his beloved brother, Mark. Daniel and Mark had a special bond forged through years of shared experiences and cherished memories. Their weekend visits to the beach had become a cherished ritual, a time for them to escape the pressures of everyday life and reconnect with nature. Ever the adventurous spirit, Mark had always been drawn to the ocean, while Daniel had accompanied him on countless underwater excursions. Together, they would frolic in the waves, laughing and joking as they explored the underwater world beneath the surface. But on that fateful day, their idyllic outing took a tragic turn when Mark was attacked by a great white shark while spearfishing. In a heartbeat, the ferocious predator shattered the peaceful tranquility of the ocean, its razor-sharp teeth tearing through Mark's flesh with savage intent. In a desperate bid to save his brother, Daniel sprang into action, drawing upon his knowledge of the ocean and its dangers to fend off the shark and drag Mark to safety. With adrenaline coursing through his veins, he fought tooth and nail to keep the predator at bay, his every instinct screaming for him to protect his brother at all costs. Finally, with a Herculean effort, Daniel managed to drag Mark up onto the rocks of the headland, where bystanders, an off-duty doctor, and a nurse rushed to his aid. For nearly an hour, they worked tirelessly to revive Mark, applying first aid and performing CPR in a desperate bid to save his life. But despite their best efforts, it was not enough. Injuries were too severe, his body ravaged by the brutal attack of the shark. As Daniel looked on helplessly, his heart breaking with every passing moment, he watched his beloved brother slip away, his life extinguished in the blink of an eye. The trauma of that day would haunt Daniel for years to come, casting a dark shadow over his once vibrant spirit. The guilt of being unable to save his brother, coupled with the pain of witnessing his death firsthand, threatened to consume him whole, leaving him a shell of his former self. In the aftermath of the tragedy, Daniel solemnly vowed to himself that he would never set foot in the ocean again. Once a source of joy and freedom, The water now held only fear and anguish for him, its depths concealing dangers that he could not bear to face. For 5 long years, Daniel remained true to his promise, avoiding the ocean like the plague and burying himself in his work as a technician. But no matter how hard he tried to escape the memories of that fateful day, they continued to haunt him, lurking in the shadows of his mind like silent specters waiting to pounce. Then one day something changed. A glimmer of hope emerged from the darkness, a flicker of light that dared to pierce the veil of despair that had enveloped Daniel's soul. It came in the form of a young boy, a patient in the hospital where Daniel worked, whose eyes sparkled with wonder and curiosity as he regaled Daniel with tales of his adventures in the ocean. Inspired by the boy's bravery and resilience, Daniel was drawn back to the water, his fear and apprehension giving way to a newfound sense of determination and purpose. With each passing day, he took small steps towards overcoming his trauma, gradually rediscovering the joy and wonder that had once defined his relationship with the ocean. And so, on the 5th anniversary of his brother's death, Daniel returned to the beach where it had all begun, his heart heavy with grief yet buoyed by a newfound sense of hope. As he stood on the shore, gazing out at the vast ocean stretching before him, he felt a sense of peace wash over him, a sense of closure that he had thought would never come. At that moment, Daniel realized that while he could never erase the pain of losing his brother, he could choose to honor his memory by embracing life and all its uncertainties. As he waded into the water, feeling the cool embrace of the ocean against his skin, he knew he was finally ready to let go of the past and embrace the future ahead. As he swam, Daniel found himself drawn deeper and deeper into the embrace of the ocean, its depths calling out to him like a siren song. For a brief moment, he allowed himself to surrender to the current's pull, letting go of his pain and sorrow as he floated weightlessly in the water. But just as he began to lose himself in the soothing rhythm of the waves, a sudden movement caught his eye. A dark shadow gliding silently beneath the surface. Panic surged through him as the memories of that fateful day came rushing back with all the force of a tidal wave, threatening to engulf him once more. Instinctively, Daniel froze, his heart pounding in his chest as he watched the shadowy figure draw closer and closer. For a moment he was paralyzed with fear, the specter of the shark looming large in his mind. As the shark's razor-sharp teeth sank into his flesh, Daniel felt a surge of adrenaline course through his veins, his every instinct screaming for him to fight back. With a primal roar, he summoned all the strength and determination within him, refusing to let the jaws of despair close around him once more. Drawing upon the memory of his brother, whose spirit lived on within him, Daniel lashed out with all the fury a man possessed. With no weapon but his bare hands, he fought back against the relentless onslaught of the shark, his blows fueled by a fierce determination to survive. Each strike was a testament to his resilience, a defiant stand against the forces that sought to drag him down. With every blow, he pushed himself beyond the limits of pain and fear, refusing to surrender to the darkness that threatened to consume him. As the shark's grip tightened around him, Daniel focused all his energy on one goal: survival. With a ferocity born of desperation, he struck out at the predator with all the strength he could muster, driving his fists into its gills with relentless determination. The shark recoiled in pain, its hold on Daniel weakening with each successive blow. With one final desperate effort, Daniel delivered a crushing blow to the shark's vulnerable gills, causing it to release its grip and retreat into the depths from whence it came. Daniel emerged from the water battered and bruised but triumphant, gasping for breath. At that moment he realized he had survived the ordeal and emerged more vital than ever. No longer a victim of his past, Daniel had become a symbol of hope and resilience, a testament to the power of the human spirit to overcome even the most harrowing of challenges. He had found the strength to fight back in the face of adversity, refusing to let the darkness win. Eliza Martinez, a marine biologist and a native of Cocos Island in Costa Rica, set out on a research expedition during the sun-soaked months of the dry seasons. She was pregnant and full of excitement, but also a sense of responsibility. Her goal was to study the behavior and ecology of reef sharks. This combined her professional knowledge with a passion for marine life. Armed with research gear, Eliza spent her days aboard the Ocean Guardian, a research vessel with her small team of scientists. The calm, azure water hid the complexity of life under the waves. Eliza was confident despite her condition. Her years of experience and extensive preparation reassured her. Eliza was descending into the crystal-clear water when the sun's rays penetrated the ocean's surface, creating a shimmering quilt on the coral beneath. The coral reef was a hive of activity. Fish darted into and out of coral hiding places while sea turtles cruised along the currents in unhurried grace. The reef sharks swam among these tranquil scenes, their sleek shapes cutting through the water effortlessly. Eliza easily navigated the coral reef, buoyed by her sense of purpose. She was collecting data for her research, watching the interactions between sharks and their feeding behavior. Reef sharks are known to be relatively docile around humans. They seemed to accept her, occasionally gliding by her curiously. Unbeknownst of Eliza's presence, however, was a single bull shark. This species is known for its unpredictable and territorial nature. The bull shark, larger and more potent than reef sharks, moves purposefully and patrols deeper waters. Its dark eyes surveyed the coral reef, marking the territory with silent warnings not seen by the intruders above. Her work so absorbed Eliza that she failed to notice subtle changes in the underwater dynamics. Sensing the bull shark's presence, the reef sharks gradually dispersed and gave wide berths to the dominant predator. Eliza was absorbed in her underwater tablet and recording observations, so she did not notice the change. The bull shark began to close in on its swimmer, feeling its territory invaded. Its approach could have been more timely but calculated. A silent hunter, it was assessing the threat of the lone swimmer. Eliza looked up when she noticed a sudden drop in water temperature. She was frightened as she saw the silhouette approaching, much larger than any shark she had seen. Eliza was only given a few seconds to react as the bull shark approached, its intentions becoming clear. She tried to appear less dangerous by remaining calm and avoiding sudden movements that might trigger the shark's predatory instincts. The bull shark, however, was unfazed. It accelerated with a powerful tail flick, and its body was coiled up in muscular energy. With its mouth wide open and rows of razor-sharp teeth, the shark closed the gap quickly. Eliza was thrown through the water by the force of the attack as the teeth of the shark sank deep into her leg. Thoughts of her unborn baby consumed her, and the research mission became a distant memory in the face of survival. Eliza, fueled by maternal instinct and adrenaline, kicked her leg with desperation. Surprised by Eliza's resistance, the bull shark loosened his grip momentarily, giving Eliza just enough time to escape. As she struggled to the surface, clouds of blood and sand covered her vision. Each stroke was a mixture of pain and determination. The bull shark's interest in the fight had waned, and it was no longer interested. It disappeared into the depths. Eliza's co-workers, alerted to the commotion by the shark, rushed to help her on the boat. Her leg was bleeding, but her spirit was unbroken as she held on to the hope that both she and her baby would survive. Eliza Martinez and her colleagues on the Ocean Guardian sprung into action. Their training as marine scientists temporarily gave way to emergency medical responses. One colleague grabbed a first aid kit, while another called the Cocos Island Coast Guard Station for an emergency medical evacuation. Eliza was in a state of panic and pain as they bandaged her leg to stop the blood flow. She worried not only for herself, but also for her unborn baby. Despite the pain and shock, Eliza's scientific brain couldn't resist analyzing the situation. Eliza's current condition and the ocean's unpredictability were brought home by the bull shark attack. She regretted that she hadn't paid more attention to environmental cues, which could have alerted her to the dangers lurking around. The boat was racing towards the island when the sun started to descend, casting a golden glow over the water. This calm contrasted sharply against the urgency of the return. Eliza lay on the deck trying to remain calm. She focused on the rhythmic sound that the boat made as it cut through the waves. This sound is usually soothing, but was now the backdrop of her racing thoughts. Eliza was immediately transferred to a small hospital upon arrival. Doctors who were familiar with diving injuries acted quickly. After several hours of intense examination, the doctors assured Eliza that while her injury was severe, she was not in danger and that her pregnancy was safe. Eliza felt a deep sense of relief when she heard this news. For the first time after the attack, Eliza took a moment to be grateful for her safety and that of her unborn child. Eliza spent the days of her recovery reliving the events leading up to the attack. Eliza was a perceived threat or intruder by the bull shark, which her presence in its territory may have aggravated during the spawning season. This reflection inspired Eliza to use her experience as a teaching tool for others. Eliza returned to the field a few months after her recovery and the birth of a healthy daughter, Mara. Eliza's ordeal had only strengthened her resolve to continue her research. Her approach had changed dramatically. She invested in tracking equipment and stricter safety procedures to monitor shark movement and environmental changes. Eliza returned to Cocos Island with a determined but cautious determination to respect and understand the marine animals she studied. Her encounter with the bull shark did not dim her passion, but it had transformed it into one of respect and measured pursuit. Eliza's research has contributed to conservation and the study of shark behavior for many years. Her story was widely shared within the scientific community and even beyond. It served as a powerful warning to respect and be cautious when entering the habitats of these formidable creatures. Eliza watched her daughter Mara playing on the sandy beaches of Cocos Island. It was a place they visited often. She felt a strong connection with the ocean, its dangers and wonders as tangible as theirs. She believed that by showing respect, caution, and understanding to the ocean's magnificent predators, humans can coexist in harmony, protecting their futures and those of the creatures beneath the waves. The air was crisp, and the sky was a clear canvas of blue on June 14, 2003, as the Peterson family's fishing boat chugged out of the harbor in Valdez Inlet, Alaska. Tom Peterson, a weathered fisherman with decades of experience, steered the modest vessel confidently. His weathered hands gripped the wheel, the sea salt staining his faded denim jacket. His wife, Anya, sat beside him, her smile as bright as the morning light. In the stern, their two children, 14-year-old Ethan and 10-year-old Lily, chattered excitedly, their fishing rods ready for the day's catch. This trip was a much-needed escape from the hustle of their restaurant business in Anchorage. The scent of frying fish and the clamor of hungry customers had faded, replaced by the tang of seawater and the boat's gentle rocking. Tom was a man of few words, but his deep love for his family shone through in these shared adventures on the open water. Once a spirited artist, Anya had shelved her dreams to support Tom's ambitions. Now, with the business running smoothly, she craved moments to reconnect with the wilder parts of herself. Her fingers itched for a sketchbook, yearning to capture the dancing reflections on the water or the stark silhouettes of seabirds against the sky. Ethan was a budding scientist, fascinated by the ocean's complex ecosystem, and his notebook was always at hand to sketch any interesting specimens they hauled in. His backpack bulged with field guides and a battered magnifying glass. Lily, a ball of boundless energy, loved the fishing as a contest, determined to catch the biggest fish of the day. Her eyes sparkled with mischief as she teased her brother about his boring scientific notes. Valdez Inlet was known for its salmon runs and stunning scenery, but it was also home to larger, less welcome predators. Pacific sleeper sharks, rarely seen but massive in size, roamed these cold waters. Tom had always preached caution, teaching his kids that the ocean was as unpredictable as beautiful. He'd shown them photos of the massive sharks, their jaws wide enough to swallow a person whole. Lily shuddered then, but the stories seemed like distant tales, not a real threat. The first few hours passed uneventfully. They pulled up several chunky cod and a hefty halibut, enough to keep Anya busy at the small filleting table. Ethan dutifully recorded their catches, his enthusiasm occasionally bubbling over into impromptu lectures on marine biology. Lily sulked, frustrated by her lack of exciting catches until her rod suddenly bent almost double. Excitement surged as the line strained. This was no ordinary fish. Tom and Anya were beside her instantly, helping to maintain tension while trying to gauge what lurked beneath the surface. Then with a massive surge, something huge breached the water. A monstrous gray form thrashed violently, snapping the fishing line. The Peterson family watched in stunned silence. Lily burst into tears, her fishing dreams dashed and replaced by dawning fear. This was no oversized salmon. It was a shark, one of the massive, rarely glimpsed sleepers. Panic surged through the Peterson family. The shark had not disappeared. It circled their tiny vessel, its dark eye assessing them with eerie intelligence. Tom cut the engine, hoping the lack of noise and vibration might lessen the shark's interest. The creature rammed the boat's hull, tremoring through the fiberglass. Lily screamed, clinging to her mother. Anya tried to soothe her, but her voice was trembling. His face was pale, and Ethan started jotting frantic notes in his journal, attempting to make sense of the situation. Tom grabbed a heavy boat hook, his only real weapon on board. The shark rammed the boat again, harder this time. A sickening crack split the air as the fiberglass started to give way beneath the relentless assault. Icy water seeped in, a chilling reminder of their vulnerability. Desperation fueled Tom's subsequent actions. He revved the engine, dashing a rocky outcropping he remembered seeing earlier. The shark followed, matching their speed in the water. Tom steered the boat into a narrow cove, gambling that the shallows would deter the massive predator. To his relief, the shark hesitated, circling the entrance to the cove but seeming unwilling to risk getting trapped in the shallow water. The boat was severely damaged. Water sloshed ominously around their feet, and the engine sputtered worryingly. Anya hastily grabbed life vests, handing them out with forced calm. Ethan bailed water with a bucket, his movements frantic. Lily whimpered, clutching a tattered stuffed penguin to her chest. Tom, ever practical, located a roll of duct tape and began mending the worst of the cracks, his actions a lifeline of hope amidst the chaos. Yet they all knew they weren't safe. The shark lingered just outside the cove, a sentinel blocking their escape. Sunset painted the sky in streaks of orange and red, the beauty contrasting with their dire predicament. Tom knew they couldn't stay here forever. As darkness fell, the temperature would plummet. Hypothermia became as much a threat as the lurking predator. They huddled close, drawing on each other for warmth and courage. Ethan whispered theories on shark behavior, his scientific mind seeking answers even in the face of overwhelming fear. Anya hummed a lullaby Lily loved as a child, her voice soothing the terrified little girl and maybe calming her own racing heart. Hours crept by. The cold bit into their bones and exhaustion threatened to overwhelm them. Just as Tom was about to decide to try and run for open water, a new sound split the night. It was the rhythmic chop of helicopter blades growing closer. A search and rescue mission, alerted by locals who had seen flares they'd set off in a last-ditch attempt hours before. As the helicopter descended, its searchlights a comforting beacon, and a wave of indescribable relief washed over them. But even as they were winched up into the warmth of the helicopter, they knew the fearsome power of the sea was something none of them would ever forget. The dark depths of Valdez Inlet held more than just fish, and the ocean would forever feel like a wilder, more dangerous place. On that balmy 80-degree morning, the pebbly beach east of South Africa was abuzz with anticipation, as world-class swimmers from across the globe gathered for the prestigious international swimming competition. With their sleek speedos and brightly colored swim caps, they stood poised on the shore, their eyes fixed on the azure expanse of the oceanic arena before them. This competition was no ordinary event. It was renowned for its challenging location, nestled within the treacherous waters of Shark Alley, a notorious stretch of sea teeming with formidable predators, particularly the fearsome bull sharks that lurked beneath the surface with predatory intent. Among the competitors stood Mick Favre, a seasoned veteran of the sport who had been crowned champion on 2 separate occasions. With a steely resolve born of countless hours of training and preparation, Favre exuded confidence as he awaited the start of the 4-day competition. His muscles rippled beneath his bronzed skin, a testament to the countless laps he had swum in preparation for this moment. Mick Favre stood tall and resolute on the starting block, his gaze fixed on the shimmering expanse of the pool before him. As one of the leading swimmers of his generation, Favre's name was synonymous with greatness, a testament to his unrivaled skill and unwavering determination in the face of adversity. But as he prepared to dive into the water, a shadow loomed over him, a formidable opponent named Richmond Gray. Gray was an American swimmer whose prowess in the pool was legendary. With a sleek, streamlined physique and a relentless drive to succeed, Gray had dominated the world of competitive swimming for years, leaving a trail of records and accolades in his wake. His speed and agility were unmatched, his technique flawless, a true force to be reckoned with in the water. Throughout his illustrious career, Gray amassed an impressive array of titles and awards, cementing his status as one of the most excellent swimmers ever. From Olympic gold medals to world championship victories, Gray conquered almost every challenge that stood in his way, leaving no doubt in anyone's mind about his unparalleled talent and skill. Lise Wills, a formidable figure in competitive swimming, was the organizer of the event. With a discerning eye for talent and a strict set of criteria, Wills ensured that only the most elite swimmers were granted entry into the competition. From their 20s to their late 50s, each competitor came with an impressive resume, boasting many achievements and accolades from past competitions. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a golden hue across the shimmering waters, the tension on the beach reached a fever pitch. The spectators, a diverse array of avid swimming enthusiasts and curious onlookers, lined the shore, their voices rising in excitement as the swimmers prepared to take the plunge. As the starting horn blared, signaling the beginning of the race, Favre surged forward with the explosive power of a torpedo, his muscles burning with exertion as he propelled himself through the water with fierce determination. But he knew victory would not come easy, not with Gray hot on his heels, his powerful strokes propelling him forward with relentless speed and precision. Despite his best efforts, Favre could feel Gray's presence looming behind him like a specter, driving him to push himself harder and faster than ever before. With each stroke, he fought against the relentless pull of the water, his lungs burning with the effort as he raced towards the finish line with single-minded determination. As the race unfolded, the tension in the air was palpable, the spectators holding their breath as Favre and Gray battled neck and neck for supremacy in the water. With each passing lap, the gap between them narrowed, their bodies moving in perfect harmony with the rhythm of the water as they vied for dominance in the fiercely contested race. Within minutes, they had reached Shark Alley, but Favre and Gray were undeterred, their minds fixed on reaching the finish line ahead of their competitors. However, as they pressed forward, the ocean churned beneath them, its azure depths concealing the dangers that lurked beneath the surface. And then, without warning, disaster struck. A shark fin appeared next to Favre, its presence sending a jolt of fear coursing through his veins. In a split second, his head whipped to the side in panic, and he disappeared beneath the waves. The sudden attack caught everyone off guard, sending shockwaves of panic rippling through the water as swimmers scrambled to escape the predator's grasp. But amidst the chaos, Gray remained calm and composed, his training and experience guiding him as he raced to his competitor. With a burst of speed, he closed the gap between them, his powerful strokes propelling him forward with determined resolve. As he reached Favre, he wasted no time in taking action. His hands moved with lightning speed as he grappled with the shark desperately to free his fellow swimmer from its razor-sharp teeth. Together they fought against the relentless predator, their voices raised in urgent cries for help as they struggled to escape its grip. Meanwhile, on shore, the race organizers sprang into action, their voices blaring over loudspeakers as they issued a frantic warning for the race to stop and for all swimmers to evacuate the water immediately. Moments later, 3 rescue boats, including jet skis, rushed towards the scene, their crews armed with tranquilizer guns and ready to assist in any way they could. With a combination of skill and sheer determination, they managed to shoot tranquilizers at the shark, causing it to release its grip on Favre and retreat into the depths from whence it came, before the dart kicked into action. With a sigh of relief, they pulled Favre and Gray onto one of the rescue boats, their hearts pounding with adrenaline as they realized just how close they had come to disaster. As they made their way back to shore, the full extent of injuries became apparent. A deep bite wound on his left leg from the shark's teeth. Though the injury was severe, it could have been far worse without Favre's composure and quick action in the face of such a terrifying situation. The competition was swiftly canceled, and the swimming organization issued a heartfelt apology for the incident and expressed gratitude that no one had been seriously injured. Despite the disappointment of not being able to complete the race, the safety and well-being of the swimmers remained the top priority. The incident garnered widespread media coverage, with television announcers highlighting the inherent dangers of swimming in open water, particularly in areas known to be frequented by sharks. When asked about his physical and mental well-being, Favre assured reporters that he was completely fine, his resilience and determination shining through in the face of adversity. As he reflected on the events of that fateful day, Favre knew that he had faced one of the most significant challenges of his career and emerged stronger for it. Though the scars of the encounter would linger both physically and emotionally, he refused to let fear dictate his future in the sport he loved. And as he looked ahead to the next competition, he did so with a renewed sense of purpose and determination, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead with unwavering resolve. The Great Barrier Reef glowed in the warm Australian sun under the clear blue sky of early summer. Amelia Bennett and her husband, Michael Bennett, chose this idyllic location as their last peaceful getaway before the arrival of their child. Amelia was drawn to the blue waters despite Michael's warnings not to swim too far into the coral reef. Sharks were known to be present. Her heart was racing as she donned her snorkeling equipment with a mixture of excitement and defiance. She slipped into the clear, calm waters and felt her body enveloped by gentle waves. The ocean surface sparkled with excitement. Amelia moved slowly and deliberately to avoid splashing. The underwater world was a vibrant mosaic of shapes and colors. The coral formations were dotted with schools of colorful fish. At the same time, the odd sea turtle glided past, oblivious to Amelia's presence. Amelia was overwhelmed by the beauty of the coral reef and felt a strong connection with the vibrant life surrounding her. She continued to explore, and the water around her became darker. This was a hint at the mysteries that lay below. Although she was aware of her risks and the sharks known to frequent these waters, the lure of the unknown kept moving forward. Her hands occasionally brushed against the coral, sending small waves into the water. A large shadow emerged from the depths without warning. The sleek, formidable shark moved with a grace belied by its reputation as a fearsome predator. The tiger shark was curious and unfazed by the presence of humans in its territory. Amelia's pulse skipped a few beats when she saw the creature approaching, its unblinking eyes fixed on her. The shark approached slowly, almost cautiously, as if assessing Amelia. Amelia remembered having read about electromagnetic fields produced by the body, particularly during pregnancy. Sharks could mistake these invisible but powerful signals for signals coming from their prey. Amelia was overcome with fear as the shark circled her. The thrill of being so close to the reality of her vulnerability had replaced the thrill of being so close to such a magnificent creature, and she knew she needed to act quickly. She swam towards the surface with all her strength. Her movements were deliberate, and she tried not to provoke the predator with sudden splashes. The reef, which had once seemed inviting, was now a maze of coral formations between her and safety. The shark began to move more deliberately as she rose. It closed the gap between them in a split second. Amelia saw its vast jaws and rows of sharp teeth. It was a stark reminder that survival is a daily battle. Amelia felt an intense pain in her leg when the shark's jaws grazed it. It was a warning, not a fatal bite, but enough to start a frenzy. Amelia, in pain and panic, struggled to keep her composure. Her mind was racing with the thoughts of her unborn baby, her husband, and the life that they planned. She pushed her way through the fear and resolute determination she felt to survive. The surface appeared miles away. As the sun reached the shallower water, it pierced the surface, creating patterns that danced on the ocean bottom. Perhaps satisfied with the results of its investigation, the shark turned away and disappeared into deep blue waters. Amelia arrived at the beach with her body shaking and the bite marks on her leg as a painful reminder of her ordeal. She collapsed on the sand, and her only thoughts were of the precious life that she held, as well as the realization of just how quickly the beauty of nature could be transformed into terror. Amelia Bennett, lying on the white, soft sand, clutched at her leg as she felt the salt water sting her injury. She was suffocating, with a mixture of relief and fear as she looked out over the ocean. The Great Barrier Reef's peaceful surface was a deceptive facade, concealing the dangers that lurked beneath. Michael ran to her side with a worried expression. From the shore, he had watched helplessly, and his heart sank with every ripple that suggested his wife was struggling. He was overwhelmed with gratitude and frustration when he saw his wife safe, even though she was injured. The marks on her leg were visible, but not as severe as he had feared. His voice, filled with relief and urgency, conveyed the necessity of immediately taking her to the hospital. Amelia was anxious as she replayed the incident in her head. Amelia's vulnerability was brought home by the shark's indifferent stare, sudden fear, and primal survival instinct. The doctors at the hospital confirmed that it was a superficial bite, which saved her life in what could have otherwise been a deadly encounter. Amelia lay on her hospital bed with her hand resting on her stomach. The gentle kicks of her unborn baby were a comforting reminder to both that they had survived. Amelia and Michael spent the next few days reflecting. The trauma of the attack on the shark had overshadowed the excitement of Amelia and Michael's baby moon. Amelia was struggling with guilt for swimming in shark-infested water. She was haunted by the warnings she had ignored. Each memory was a jab to her conscience. Michael's support was not enough to mask his distress. Michael wished never to see Amelia alone and vulnerable in the water again. Amelia and Michael revisited the Great Barrier Reef, but they brought their 3-year-old son Noah this time. The couple visited the same beaches with a newfound respect and understanding for the sea's inhabitants. Amelia watched Noah make sandcastles by the shore while his laughter blended with the sound of the waves. The reef was still as stunning and intimidating as it had always been. Amelia felt closure as the sun set, casting a golden radiance over the water. The ocean gave her a second opportunity with its mysteries and grandeur. She learned to appreciate its beauty at a distance and hoped Noah would pass on this lesson. The Bennett family gathered in the quiet of the evening to show the power of motherhood and nature's unyielding force. The rusting "No Trespassing" sign was another challenge for Allison Walsh and her crew on this sweltering summer day in Isla Verde, Mexico, June 25, 2009. Adrenaline and boredom fueled their reckless adventures in this sleepy coastal town. With her wild tangle of curls and a thirst for adventure, Allison was always the ringleader. Tom, the quiet mechanical genius, could hotwire a car and quickly build a zip line. Then there was Chelio, the skeptic of the group, his sarcastic comments masking the thrill that chased away the monotony of small-town life. Finally, Lily, Allison's younger sister, bounced with an energy that was both exhausting and contagious. Today's target was the old ecological park. Years ago, it had bustled with tourists eager to see its protected lagoon and resident wildlife. A devastating hurricane had ravaged the area, Isla Verde included, and the park never reopened. Rumors of abandoned research equipment and overgrown trails swirled, adding to its allure for the restless teens. The whispered legend of El Tiburon, a monstrous shark said to live in the murky lagoon, was just another part of the forbidden playground. Scaling the crumbling fence was child's play. The park felt like a post-apocalyptic jungle, nature reclaiming the crumbling structures and pathways. A faded brochure Allison snatched from a ruined kiosk boasted of stingray encounters and mangrove forests in their prime. They scoffed at organized tours, preferring the thrill of forging their path. The lagoon appeared suddenly through a tangle of vines. It was larger than Allison had imagined, its stillness broken only by the calls of unseen birds. She felt a familiar surge of excitement mixed with a prickle of unease. Tom, ever practical, located a rotting wooden rowboat, half sunken near the shore. Within an hour they had it patched and surprisingly seaworthy. Paddling onto the lagoon on this sweltering June afternoon felt like crossing into another world. The water deepened to an inky green, reflecting the dense canopy above. Chelio joked nervously about El Tiburon lurking beneath, but his attempt to mask his fear only fueled Allison's bravado. She was determined to prove these were just silly stories meant to scare kids. Hours slipped by as they explored hidden inlets and raced their makeshift boat. Laughter bounced off the enclosing walls of the lagoon, a defiant echo in the forgotten park. As the sun descended, Allison ventured towards the lagoon's center, where the water looked impossibly deep. Curiosity battled with a rising sense of unease. Lily, her usual bubbly enthusiasm dampened, whimpered about going back. Then a massive shadow moved beneath their boat, rocking it violently. Allison's blood ran cold. This was no ordinary fish. A shiver ran through them as a colossal shark fin sliced through the water's surface, dwarfing their tiny vessel. Panic exploded within them as El Tiburon revealed its proper form. It wasn't just a legend. The shark was massive, the size of their tiny boat. Its scarred gray form circled with horrifying speed, bumping the boat, its beady eyes seeming to measure them. Chelio shrieked, his earlier bravado shattering. Tom fumbled with an oar, using it to poke feebly at the monstrous predator. Allison's mind raced, searching for any escape. The shark lunged, its jaws snapping open in a terrifying display of teeth. The boat overturned, dumping them into the murky water. Lily screamed, thrashing wildly. Allison choked, a rush of freezing water filling her lungs as she was pulled beneath the surface. For a terrifying moment, she saw the massive shape of the shark pass just inches from her legs. Frantically, she kicked upwards, breaking free into the fading daylight. Coughing and gasping, she saw Chelio clinging to the overturned boat, and Tom pulling a sobbing Lily toward the shore. Allison swam desperately, every stroke fueled by raw terror. The lagoon wasn't just deep, it was deceptively wide. Reaching land felt like an impossible goal. Behind her, a splash and a shriek made her blood run cold. Chelio's thrashes had attracted the shark's attention. With sickening dread, she watched the giant predator drag him beneath the surface. A trail of crimson spread through the water, and Chelio's final scream was cut brutally short. Numb with horror, Allison kept her focus on the shoreline. Tom and Lily were closer now, but the shark seemed intent on her, cutting off her escape route. Despair threatened to overwhelm her as she realized she might not make it. Every tired stroke felt like her last. Suddenly, an engine roared to life. A small fishing boat appeared, and the commotion likely alerted a local fisherman. Seeing their terrified faces and the circling shark, he maneuvered his boat between Allison and the predator. Shouting in frantic Spanish, he gestured wildly for them to climb aboard. Allison, Tom, and Lily scrambled into the boat, their escape feeling like a miracle. As the fishermen sped them to safety, Allison turned to watch the lagoon fade into the distance. The mighty shark had once again retreated to its murky domain. The waters looked deceptively calm, hiding the terror they had just escaped. Reaching shore felt like stepping onto another planet. Allison sobbed, the weight of what they had just witnessed crushing her. Lily clung to Tom, her face ghostly pale. Local authorities were waiting, alerted by the fishermen, and their frantic words sparked a search. Despite their desperate insistence, no trace of Chelio was ever found. The legend of El Tiburon would forever be seared into the minds of Isla Verde's residents. The ecological park was permanently closed, the whispered tales of the monstrous shark morphing into a grim warning. Allison and her friends returned to their once carefree lives, forever changed. The thrill of adventure was tainted with the horror of that day. Haunted by nightmares and guilt, Allison never regained her rebellious spirit. In the quiet of the night, she could still hear Chelio's scream and the chilling splash that had signaled the end. The golden rays of the morning sun danced upon the azure waves of Lighthouse Beach, casting a mesmerizing glow upon the crystalline waters. For Jack, a seasoned surfer whose very essence seemed intertwined with the rhythm of the ocean, this was paradise. With each stroke of his arm, his board sliced through the water with practiced precision, a testament to years spent mastering the art of wave riding. As Jack paddled out, his senses heightened, attuned to the subtle shifts in the ocean's mood. Though the waves beckoned with their siren call, there was an underlying awareness, a primal instinct that whispered of the dangers lurking beneath the surface. Lighthouse Beach was renowned not only for its breathtaking beauty and epic waves, but also for the ever-present threat of sharks that prowled its depths, a fact often overlooked amidst the allure of its pristine shores. Yet, for Jack and his fellow surfers, the allure of the waves eclipsed any shadow of fear. With each crest and trough, they danced upon the water's surface, defying gravity and embracing the raw power of the sea. And so, on this sun-kissed morning, Jack found himself immersed in the timeless ritual of wave riding, his heart pounding in sync with the rhythm of the ocean. As he positioned himself to catch a perfect wave, anticipation coursed through his veins. The world around him seemed to fade away, replaced by the singular focus of the moment, the exhilarating rush of riding nature's fury. With a swift motion, he propelled himself forward, his body becoming one with the wave as it carried him effortlessly toward the shore. For a fleeting moment, Jack felt invincible, his spirit soaring amidst the foam and spray. But then, as if summoned by some unseen force, a sense of unease crept into his consciousness. It was subtle at first, a nagging feeling that something was amiss, a whisper of danger amidst the euphoria of the moment. And then, with a suddenness that seemed to defy comprehension, the tranquility of the morning was shattered. From the depths below, a dark shadow emerged, its form obscured by the churning waters. Jack's world was upended. Jack's blink of an eye as he found himself face to face with the very embodiment of his deepest fears, a shark. Time seemed to slow to a crawl as Jack grappled with the reality of the situation. Instinct and adrenaline surged through his veins, propelling him into action even as panic threatened to consume him. With a desperate hunger, he fought against the primal urge to flee, knowing that any sudden movement could spell disaster. Before Jack could react, the beast lunged with savage intent, its jaws closing around him with bone-crushing force. In an instant, paradise gave way to agony as the shark's teeth tore through his surfboard to his flesh, leaving him helpless in the grip of the ocean's apex predator. The shock of the attack reverberated through Jack's body, each excruciating moment etched into his consciousness with searing clarity. He screamed in anguish, the sound lost amidst the roar of the waves and the churning of the water turned crimson by his blood. Yet even amid unimaginable pain, Jack refused to surrender to despair. With a courage born of desperation, he fought against the relentless onslaught, grappling with the beast in a primal struggle for survival. Meanwhile, the once serene waters erupted into chaos as more sharks converged on the scene, drawn by the scent of blood and the promise of an easy meal. The air filled with the tang of fear and adrenaline as Jack's fellow surfers paddled frantically away from the unfolding horror, their hearts pounding with terror and determination. But amidst the chaos, a glimmer of hope emerged, a lifeline in the form of vigilant lifeguards, alerted to the unfolding tragedy by the frantic shouts of the surfers. With swift precision, they sprang into action, their training guiding their movements as they raced to save one of their own. As they reached Jack, the full extent of the horror became apparent. His leg mangled beyond recognition, his pale form trembling with shock and pain. He clung to consciousness with grim determination, even as the jaws of death loomed ever closer. He refused to yield. With steely resolve, the lifeguards intervened swiftly and decisively as they fought to pry Jack from the predator's jaws. With a final burst of effort, they succeeded, hoisting him onto a rescue board and swiftly sending the shark back into the depths from whence it came. Back on the shore, a crowd had gathered, their faces etched with worry and disbelief as they witnessed the harrowing drama unfolding before them. Among them stood Jack's friends and associates, their hearts heavy with fear and uncertainty as they awaited his fate. Jack's condition was dire, his life hanging in the balance as he was airlifted to a specialist hospital for urgent treatment. The loss of blood had left him teetering on the brink of death, his body weakened by the relentless assault of the shark's jaws. Upon examination, the extent of the damage became painfully clear. His left leg was so mangled that amputation was deemed necessary to prevent further complications. As Jack underwent surgery to remove the shattered remnants of his limb, the beach where the attack had occurred remained closed to the public. Authorities launched a thorough investigation into the incident, determined to uncover the circumstances that had led to such a devastating encounter. Photographs from the scene painted a haunting picture of the aftermath. Jack's blue and white surfboard, its bottom ripped off, bearing the unmistakable imprint of the shark's lethal embrace. Based on the size of the bite marks, experts estimated the predator to be between 3.8 to 4.2 meters in length, a formidable creature capable of inflicting catastrophic harm. For Jack, the road to recovery would be long and arduous, marked by countless hours of rehabilitation and adjustment to life with a prosthetic limb. Several weeks later, Jack emerged from the shadow of tragedy, his spirit unbroken despite the physical toll of the encounter. With a prosthetic attached to his remaining leg, he took his first tentative steps towards a new beginning, determined to reclaim the life that had been momentarily snatched away. The Aegean Sea shimmered under a cloudless sky, reflecting the yacht Serendipity opulence. Valentina Petrova, an icon on social media, lay sprawled on a plush sunbed, her toned body shimmering with expensive tanning oil. Growing up in a small Siberian village, moments like this were a distant dream. Modeling had yet to be her plan. It started as selfies shared with friends back home, and then talent scouts found her, propelling her to overnight fame. Her meticulously curated Instagram feed showcased a life of untouchable glamour. Private jets, designer clothes, and parties in the world's most exclusive locations. Her followers, numbering in the millions, hungered for each update, their comments and likes fueling her meteoric rise. This morning, July 14, 2012, she had filmed sponsored content by the Infinity Pool, laughing while showcasing swimwear sent by luxury brands, hoping for a moment on her feed. The work was never-ending, editing videos, choosing the perfect captions, and cultivating the illusion of effortless perfection. Dimitris Petropavlos, the Greek shipping magnate, was famous for his extravagant parties. This one was no exception. Tonight was her chance to elevate her status further, to be seen networking with socialites, fashion designers, and perhaps even a Hollywood star or two. Valentina smoothed her designer sunglasses over her eyes, feeling a flicker of nerves. The stakes were high. She changed into a dress that cost more than most people made in a year, the shimmering sequins glinting like fish scales. The crew members' faces displayed awe as she walked and barely concealed resentment. Valentina was used to it. The whispers, she was just a pretty face, lucky to be here, not genuinely talented, only hardened her resolve to prove them wrong. Sapphire Bay was famed for its crystal-clear waters and abundant marine life. Valentina had been fascinated by documentaries showing graceful sharks patrolling ancient coral reefs. She never imagined her carefully posed photo shoots might lead to a real-life encounter with an apex predator. The edge of the yacht had always been Valentina's favorite spot for a photo capturing both the expanse of the sea and the luxurious surroundings. She teetered on the railing, holding her pose, unaware of the movement in the darkening water below. The setting sun had reduced visibility, and the usually clear water now held an ominous quality. There was the briefest flash of gray, a sleek shape moving slowly below the surface. The water around Valentina erupted in a fury of foam as the shark lunged, its massive jaws snapping open. Her piercing scream was lost as she tumbled overboard, her shimmering sequin dress a beacon in the darkening water. In the chaos, the shark thrashed. It circled her with predatory intent, its powerful tail sending waves washing over the yacht's edge. Valentina scrambled, the fabric of her dress snagging on remnants of the railing, hampering her movements. Time fractured on the deck of the yacht. Shrieks of horror rose from the guests as the crew fumbled desperately with life preservers and safety equipment. The shark attacked again. This time its teeth found purchase. Valentina felt a jolting pain in her leg. The warmth of her blood spread through the cool water, a crimson invitation that made the shark frenzy. It pulled, ripping a chunk of flesh away. Valentina's vision blurred as terror overwhelmed her. Instinctively, she thrashed her arms, a final desperate attempt at defense. Suddenly, the pressure from the shark's jaws lessened. It had caught a glimpse of the commotion on the yacht, shouting people, lights, and objects being flung into the water. For a moment, the shark hesitated, its instincts pulling it between the injured prey and the potential danger from the larger vessel. The delay was Valentina's salvation. A life preserver splashed near her, followed by a rope. Dimly, she heard shouts, names she didn't recognize calling to her. With a surge of adrenaline, she grabbed the rope and clung to it with all her remaining strength. Agonizingly, they hauled her upwards. Every movement felt like shards of glass raked through her shredded leg. Blood pumped from the gaping wounds, the once pristine water turning murky with red. She screamed, not from vanity, but from the sheer animalistic pain that ripped through her body. She felt like a rag doll, bones threatening to snap loose from their moorings, as her mangled form was pulled over the railing and onto the deck. The chaos intensified, a symphony of horrified shouts and sobs. Someone tore a shirt, pressing the rough fabric against her ruined leg. It was a futile attempt. The blood flowed too profusely. Panic clawed at her throat as her vision blurred. Faces swam above her, some familiar, others warped into grotesque masks of terror. From somewhere distant came the wail of a siren, a Coast Guard vessel summoned by the commotion. The sound was both a lifeline and a death knell. If they didn't reach her soon, the world narrowed to pain. The drone of the approaching boat, and a bone-deep chill creeping through her limbs. Her once perfect body was betraying her, shutting down. Later, in a sterile hospital room, the extent of her injuries would be made clear. Tendons, muscles, and even bones were irrevocably damaged. But at that moment, as the world faded to black, she knew only that the price of social media glamour could be paid in flesh and blood. The incident, a frantic battle for survival, had been captured live on her followers' feeds. News would spread globally. Her name splashed across headlines alongside images of the blood-stained water. The curated life she had built with such care had crumbled. In its place was a stark reality. The ocean could be as cruel as beautiful, and danger lurked behind the lens of fame. The tranquil azure waters of the Bahamas were irresistible under the bright afternoon sun, sparkling brilliantly in the Caribbean light. 6 months pregnant, Sarah Mitchell and her husband chose this idyllic destination for their baby moon, seeking a serene escape to unwind and savor a brief reprieve from their daily routines. The small island they were anchored at was hidden, a paradise with white sandy beaches, lush greenery, and a peaceful beauty. Sarah was eager to take a dip in the warm, clear water. Sarah stepped into the shallow waters in her swimsuit and with sunscreen on. The gentle waves that lapped against her skin soothed her swollen feet as she moved further away from the shore. The seabed began to darken as the water grew deeper around her. Sarah floated backward, enjoying the gentle dance of the sun's rays in the crystal-clear water. She was utterly at peace. Despite their seemingly tranquil appearance, the waters surrounding the island were not as untouched as they appeared. Although Sarah was unaware of this, locals knew that the area was a habitat for reef sharks. Generally, they are naturally cautious, but these sharks could become aggressive if provoked or during feeding. Sarah was swimming when a reef shark, attracted by the disturbance of the water, quietly started to close in from the deeper areas of the bay. Its muscular, sleek body sliced through the water efficiently, driven by its instinct to investigate potential threats or prey within its territory. From the moment Sarah noticed a shadow beneath her, she felt tense. While not fully alarming, it was enough to heighten her nerves. She flipped her body to float upright and scanned the surrounding water. To calm herself, she waded further, reassuring herself that it was just her imagination. The shark suddenly arose from the depths. It closed in on the distance with terrifying speed. The dorsal blade sliced through the water as if it were a knife. Sarah's heart pounded when she saw the shark form. Its eyes were cold and unyielding. She tried to escape in a panic, but it was already too late. The shark snapped its jaws around her leg as it charged. The pain was searing and immediate, a burning sensation that ripped her calm. Sarah struggled desperately in the chaos of splashing waters and thrashing arms. Her mind was filled with regret for her decision to swim into these unknown waters. She was battling to escape the predator when her thoughts turned to her unborn baby, intensifying her struggle for survival. She came here for peace and relaxation, not to confront the primal fear awakened in her by the shadow lurking at the bottom. Sarah's instinct for survival took over amid the chaos. She knew that she needed to act fast to protect her unborn baby and prevent further injury. She waded in the water with her hands, searching for anything to help defend herself. She found the snorkel she dropped and used all her strength to jab at the shark's sensitive eyes and gills. Taken aback by the shark's sudden retreat, it briefly loosened its grip. Sarah seized the opportunity, pulling her leg free despite the searing pain shooting up her limb. The water turned scarlet and blood splattered the surface. Ignoring the pain, she began swimming desperately back to shore, each stroke fueled by adrenaline and an unyielding will to survive. The shark circled back behind her as if to reassess the prey who had suddenly fought back. Sarah felt the pressure of the shark's gaze and the threat of another attack. The sight of the sandy shore, which was getting closer with every painful kick, pushed her forward. Her husband, watching her in horror on the deck of the cruise ship, dove into the water and helped her. Her weak leg throbbed as she struggled to get out of the water. Sarah gasped in shock and collapsed on the sand. Sarah lay on the beach safely, watching the swirling sky of blue and white above her. As the terror of the attack subsided, it was replaced by a feeling of relief that she had survived. She felt the steady pulse within her stomach and was reassured. She felt the regret of her decision, which was to swim in shark-infested water. The gravity of the situation became apparent as the sun set and cast long shadows on the beach. Sarah and her husband watched the waves rolling in as a gentle reminder of the ocean's constant presence. The scene's beauty was striking against the background of the day's events. It served as a reminder of nature's dual nature, tranquility and danger. Sarah's story was shared with the cruise crew and guests the following days. The attack highlighted the importance of listening to local warnings regarding wildlife and the environment. Sarah's encounter with the shark marked a turning point in her life, shaping the rest of the baby moon she spent and her understanding of the fragility of life. She often thought about the water and the shadows beneath the waves. But these thoughts no longer contained only fear. The reflections were filled with a deep, abiding respect for nature, born from confrontation and consequences. The ocean's fearful echoes gradually faded as she recovered physically and mentally. As the sun rose over the tranquil waters of the coastal town of Odisha in India, a sense of anticipation hung in the air. The 5th edition of the International Sand Art Festival was about to kick off, drawing skilled sand artists from across the globe to exhibit their talent in crafting intricate and breathtaking sculptures entirely out of sand. The main beach of Odisha had been transformed into a vibrant hub of creativity, with artists from various corners of the world converging to showcase their skills. Using the beach's golden sands as their canvas, these artists would create intricate designs and sculptures that conveyed meaningful messages, spanning cultural heritage, social issues, and environmental conservation. As the festival commenced, the beach came alive with activity. Dozens of artists, each armed with only a bucket and a shovel, set to work meticulously molding and sculpting the sand into works of art. From towering structures depicting ancient monuments to delicate sculptures, capturing the beauty of nature, the diversity of creations on display was truly awe-inspiring. Among the participants were international representatives from countries across the Western and Eastern hemispheres, each bringing their unique perspective and artistic style to the festival. From the intricately carved patterns of Japanese Zen gardens to the bold and expressive sculptures of African wildlife, the festival celebrated global artistic talent. But amidst the festival's hustle and bustle, an ominous shadow loomed over the tranquil waters of the beach, which became evident after an unexpected incident. Despite this shadow, the festival continued in full swing, with artists working tirelessly to bring their visions to life in the soft sands of the beach. Each sculpture was a labor of love, crafted with precision and care to convey a specific message or emotion. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the bustling beachfront transformed into a scene of chaos and terror. Panicked screams echoed through the air as people scrambled for safety, their hearts pounding with fear at the thought of the unseen menace lurking just beneath the surface. It was due to shark attacks that had struck the unsuspecting crowd with ferocity, and it sent shockwaves rippling through its tight-knit community, leaving devastation in their wake. What had once been a vibrant hub of artistic creativity had now become a battleground, its azure waters stained with the blood of the innocent and the unwary. The International Sand Art Festival, which had drawn skilled artists from across the globe to showcase their talents on the sandy shores of Odisha, came to an abrupt halt as the first reports of the attacks filtered through the crowd. Hundreds of people, who had gathered to cheer on the artists as they worked and littered the water with their musical instruments, got their joyful melodies replaced by the panicked cries of those fleeing for their lives. In the midst of the chaos, Sheriff Daniel Hayes emerged as a beacon of hope in the darkness. His weathered face was a testament to the countless battles he had fought and won in service to his community. With grim determination etched into his steely gaze, Sheriff Hayes took charge of the situation, marshaling his deputies and coordinating the town's response to the crisis. Yet, even as Sheriff Hayes and his team worked tirelessly to restore order to the troubled waters, they were confronted by a new threat, a web of political intrigue and bureaucracy threatening to undermine their efforts at every turn. The town council, eager to preserve the fragile veneer of prosperity upon which Odisha depended, exerted relentless pressure on the sheriff to quell the rising fear that threatened to engulf the town. But Sheriff Hayes refused to be swayed by the machinations of the powerful few. his unwavering commitment to justice driving him forward in the face of adversity. With the support of his dedicated team of deputies, he delved deeper into the heart of darkness that lurked beneath the tranquil surface of the bay, determined to uncover the truth behind the rash of attacks and bring those responsible to justice. And then, finally, a breakthrough. Sheriff Daniel Hayes teamed up with Sarah Bennett, a marine biologist, to embark on the perilous journey. Together, they combed the length and breadth of Odisha, their resolve unshaken by the chaos and despair that had gripped the once tranquil community. Their quest for truth led them down a twisting path fraught with danger and deception, as they sought to unravel the sinister forces conspiring to unleash chaos upon their town. From the sun-kissed beaches to the shadowy back alleys, they pursued every lead with relentless determination. As days turned into weeks, Sheriff Hayes and Sarah uncovered a shocking revelation that sent shockwaves of disbelief reverberating through the town. It appeared that the recent spate of shark attacks was not merely a random act of nature, but rather the sinister consequence of illegal fishing practices perpetrated by unscrupulous individuals seeking to profit from the bountiful riches of the sea. The evidence they uncovered painted a damning picture of greed and corruption as they pieced together the intricate web of deceit that had allowed these illegal activities to flourish unchecked. With each new revelation, their resolve grew more robust, fueled by a burning desire to bring those responsible to justice and restore peace to their troubled waters. Armed with their findings, Sheriff Hayes confronted the town council with the harsh reality of their complicity in the tragic events in the town. With a steely resolve born of righteous indignation, he demanded justice for the innocent lives that had been lost and the sacred trust that had been betrayed. In a dramatic showdown that echoed across the hallowed halls of power, Sheriff Hayes stood tall against the forces of corruption and greed that sought to undermine the very fabric of justice upon which the town stood. With the unwavering support of the townspeople who rallied behind him in a display of solidarity that echoed the spirit of unity that had sustained their community through countless trials and tribulations, he emerged victorious against all odds. The town council, faced with the irrefutable evidence of their wrongdoing, had no choice but to yield to the demands of justice. Those responsible for the illegal fishing practices were brought to account for their crimes, facing stiff penalties and sanctions for their actions. But the victory came at a cost, as the scars of the tragedy that had befallen the town would take time to heal. Yet in the aftermath of the crisis, a newfound sense of unity and purpose emerged as the people of Odisha came together to rebuild their community more robust and resilient than ever before. The Aurora Borealis, a research vessel in the icy waters of Svalbard, Norway, was a temporary residence for scientists studying polar bears' behavior and ecology. Laura Jensen was a marine scientist who was 7 months pregnant. Laura Jensen's dedication to her research was unwavering despite the risks of her condition and extreme conditions. Laura saw this as an opportunity to collect data to help conservation efforts. The Arctic landscape is both breathtaking and intimidating. The Aurora Borealis often shone in the sky, and icebergs shaped like alabaster floated on the water's surface. Laura spent many hours on deck in her insulated gear, documenting the movements and habits of the polar bears. Her research was crucial, as it aimed to understand how climate changes altered bears' behaviors. The Arctic is not without danger. Under the calm surface of the water, Greenland sharks lurked. These ancient and elusive creatures are known for their persistent but slow hunting techniques. The sharks were rarely visible but always there as part of the complex ecosystem that Laura was studying. When the peace suddenly broke, Laura collected samples at an ice flow's edge. The still waters were disturbed by a dark form moving beneath the surface. The Greenland shark was barely visible in the darkness of the deep ocean. Laura knew these sharks were usually scavengers, but that the lack of food in the Arctic could cause them to become more aggressive. She continued to work, and more shadows appeared. As the sharks were attracted by her equipment's electromagnetic and vibration signals, they began to circle. Laura's heart raced when she realized the danger. Sharks are usually solitary animals, but this unusual behavior was likely due to hunger and an instinctive desire to find food. Realizing that she was in danger, Laura decided to retreat. She moved slowly to avoid provoking a shark chase. Each step she took back to the safety of her research vessel was calculated and tense. She was torn by her desire to learn and her maternal instinct to protect the unborn child. Laura glanced behind her as she approached the boat and saw the Greenland shark's fins slicing through the ice-cold water. Their movements were deliberate and unhurried. It dawned on her that she was vulnerable in this frozen wilderness. The Arctic was harsh and unforgiving, where life was at the mercy of nature. Her colleagues helped Laura aboard the ship. She reflected on her decision as she looked at the icy water. Fear of coming face to face with one of the Arctic's most formidable predators had tempered the thrill of being able to contribute to vital research. It was a harrowing experience that reminded her of the delicate balance needed to enter such a rugged yet pristine landscape. Sitting on the deck of Aurora Borealis, Laura Jensen watched the darkness where the Greenland sharks had vanished into the depths. Although the immediate threat had passed, her encounter with the sharks left a lasting impression on her. Laura's colleagues rushed around her to secure equipment and discuss the strange behavior of the sharks, but she was left alone with her thoughts. Although the Arctic's beauty is undeniable and its dangers are not, today's events have revealed their latent dangers. Laura was committed to her career, but her vulnerability in pregnancy began to weigh on her. She realized the delicate balance between following her passion and maintaining personal safety. It could be thrown off at the slightest provocation. Laura spent some time observing the icy landscape as the ship moved away from where the sharks were sighted. The vastness of the Arctic was both intimidating and awe-inspiring. She knew that the data collected on the expedition would be crucial to understanding Arctic wildlife. However, she still questioned if the risks to herself and her unborn baby were justified. Laura was determined not to let her experience dictate the rest of the trip, so she concentrated on collecting her observations and notes. From the relative safety and comfort of the ship, she continued her research using binoculars, cameras, and other tools. She was able to contribute in a meaningful way while staying safe from the dangers of the icy water. Laura was filled with relief and satisfaction as the expedition ended. Laura had overcome one of her biggest challenges with courage. Her encounter with the Greenland sharks was a turning point in her life. It served as a reminder to respect and be cautious when dealing with wild animals. Laura returned home and shared her experience with the scientific community. She stressed the unpredictable nature of Arctic research and the need for improved safety measures. Laura's story was a hit with many. It highlighted the inherent dangers of working in extreme environments and the need to balance human curiosity and environmental awareness. The relentless surge of the Indian Ocean could be felt even before the small dive boat broke the horizon. Maya Desai couldn't suppress a shiver of mixed excitement and apprehension. She was an experienced diver, but something about this trip felt different. Mossel Bay was known as a white shark hotspot, and today's dive was meant to bring them closer to these majestic predators than ever before. The plan was to explore the wreck of the Duchess, a cargo ship that sank decades ago, now a haven for marine life. Maya was here with her brother Ravi and two friends, Sarah, a marine biologist with an infectious enthusiasm, and Ben, a photographer hoping to capture the perfect shark image. They were an unlikely crew. Maya, a successful doctor craving adventure outside the hospital, Ravi, the cautious accountant, Sarah, the bubbly scientist, and Ben always searching for the next adrenaline rush. Before the trip, their guide Peter had been unhappy as he briefed them on shark behavior and the recent illegal fishing activities in the area. These activities agitated the sharks, and there had been several tense encounters between sharks and divers in recent weeks. Still, the allure of seeing these apex predators in their natural habitat outweighed the potential risks. The morning of August 28, 2001, was spent on routine dives, exploring vibrant reefs teeming with colorful fish. Maya's anxiety eased with each breath she took underwater. Yet the looming presence of the Duchess and its rumored inhabitants nagged at the back of her mind. After a rushed lunch on board, Peter signaled the main event. As they geared up, a sense of solemnity replaced the earlier excitement. Sarah double-checked their air tanks and reviewed the safety protocols, her voice unusually steady. The old shipwreck cast an imposing shadow in the murky depths. With a final nod, they descended into the ocean's embrace. The water felt colder, and the limited visibility added to unease. Maya instinctively kept closer to Ravi, his calm presence a comfort in this alien world. A flash of movement in the gloom made them all freeze. At least 4 meters long, a massive shark materialized from the shadows, silently circling the wreck. Peter raised his hand, a signal to stay calm and regroup. Maya's heart hammered against her ribs, and she found it hard to breathe steadily. The shark was magnificent, a creature of pure power. Yet its gaze seemed devoid of curiosity, instead holding a chilling focus. They edged along the wreck's hull, seeking the relative safety of its rusted interior. The shark paced them relentlessly, its passes growing closer with each circuit. Ravi clutched Maya's hand tightly, a silent plea for reassurance she could not give. Suddenly, panic erupted. Ben, separated from the group, had found an ideal angle to photograph the shark, just as a school of fish darted by. The movement triggered the predator. In a blur, the shark charged, snapping its massive jaws around one of Ben's legs. His muffled screams echoed through the water, churning bubbles to the surface. In the chaos, the group scattered. Sarah tried to distract the shark, waving her dive knife, a futile gesture against the creature's size and strength. Peter, cursing under his breath, pulled Ben toward a narrow crevice in the wreck. The shark thrashed, its teeth ripping Ben's dive suit. Blood clouded the water, further inciting its feeding frenzy. Maya found herself trapped on the outer side of the wreck. The shark, its attention now divided, seemed to consider her. She could almost feel its cold eyes measuring her, weighing its options. It nudged the wreck's decaying metal, testing the barrier between them. Terror gave her a jolt of energy. She propelled herself away from the ship, swimming upwards, ignoring the warning pings from her air gauge. The others spotted her break for the surface, scattering to follow. The shark hesitated, its attention finally drawn away from its trapped prey. Lungs burning, they surfaced in a chaotic cluster. Peter dragged a half-conscious Ben on board the dive boat, his leg a mangled mess. The salty air stung Maya's tears, a mixture of relief and anguish. Ben needed urgent medical attention. Sarah frantically radioed for a Coast Guard rescue, her voice cracking with distress. The trip back was a nightmare. Each wave brought the looming threat of a renewed attack. They huddled together, injuries tended with makeshift bandages, their eyes scanning the ocean for any sign of fins slicing through the water. Upon reaching shore, Ben was airlifted to the hospital. News crews descended like vultures, their cameras flashing, microphones thrust toward the shaken group. The once beautiful dive site was now a place of trauma, cordoned off with yellow tape. In the calm waiting room, the smell of antiseptic and the quiet beeping of monitors underscored the gravity of the situation. Maya knew their lives had changed irrevocably. Ben faced a long recovery, his mangled leg a testament to the power of the shark. His camera lay abandoned on the dive boat, now seeming like a childish toy in the face of such brutality. His dreams of underwater photography were likely shattered. Sarah was tormented with guilt, replaying every decision, wondering if she could have prevented the attack. Tears streamed silently down her face. Ravi held on to Maya tightly, his usually stoic expression replaced with a mask of fear. He silently vowed never to let her risk her life like this again, resentment simmering beneath the worry. Maya was uninjured, but the images were burned into her mind. The shark's predatory gaze, the once pristine water now a swirling crimson cloud, and Ben's cries muffled by the ocean. The thrill of adventure had curdled into a deep fear of the hidden dangers lurking in the ocean's depths. A shiver ran through her despite the warmth of the hospital room. She knew deep down she would never look at the sea the same way again. Amidst the azure depths of the remote islands off the Pacific coast, a team of scientists, including Dan Allen, embarked on a marine mission that would forever alter the course of their research. Their expedition to the rugged beauty of the archipelago was marked by a sense of anticipation, a quest to uncover the mysteries hidden beneath the waves. Their journey took them to the uncharted waters surrounding San Benedicto Island, where Dan stumbled upon a small red fish, an enigmatic creature whose identity remained mysterious. Little did they know that this discovery would pale in comparison to what lay ahead. As the team ventured deeper into the azure depths, they stumbled upon an uncharted underwater cave system, a labyrinth of twisting passages and hidden chambers that beckoned with the promise of untold wonders. Yet what set this cave system apart was not just its sheer size, but the rare species of aggressive sharks that patrolled its murky depths. The discovery was both exhilarating and daunting for the researchers, offering a unique opportunity to study these elusive creatures in their natural habitat. But as they delved deeper into the caves, their sense of wonder soon turned to dread when disaster struck in the form of a powerful earthquake. The ground trembled beneath their feet, sending shockwaves rippling through the water as the cave system collided around them. Panic gripped the team as they realized they were trapped, cut off from the outside world with no way to escape. Amidst the chaos, Dan spotted the redfish she had caught with a little net. They knew their only hope was to find a way out before it was too late. But with the walls closing in and the scent of blood from their injured companions drawing the sharks ever closer, the odds were stacked against them like never before. As they plunged deeper into the labyrinth's heart, they encountered one obstacle after another. A maze of narrow passageways filled with jagged rocks, dead ends that led to nowhere, and the ever-present threat of the sharks lurking in the shadows. Yet, amidst the darkness and uncertainty, Dan clung tightly to the net that housed his precious catch, a small glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. But when it seemed like all hope was lost, they stumbled upon a hidden passage leading to the surface, a narrow shaft of light cutting through the darkness like a beacon of hope. With renewed determination, they pressed forward, their hearts pounding with adrenaline as they navigated the final stretch of their harrowing journey. Their triumph, however, was short-lived as they emerged from the depths, only to find themselves far from the safety of their vessel. Injured by rock particles that had fallen during the earthquake, they knew their journey was far from over. With grim determination, they set out to make the arduous journey back to the ship, each step a testament to their unwavering resolve to survive against all odds. After what felt like an eternity, they finally reached the safety of their vessel, their bodies battered and bruised but their spirits unbroken. As they collapsed onto the deck, exhaustion washing over them like a tidal wave, the team leader realized the true identity of Dan's catch: a wrasse, a common species of tropical fish found in the waters surrounding the islands. Though their ordeal had been harrowing and fraught with danger, they had not suffered in vain. Their discovery, though not the elusive species they had hoped for, reminded them of the unpredictable nature of scientific exploration and the importance of perseverance in the face of adversity. As they nursed their wounds and reflected on their narrow escape, they knew their experience would forever shape their understanding of the ocean's depths and the creatures that called it home. Though they faced death and danger at every turn, they emerged more robust and resilient from the darkness than ever. Baía Formosa, Brazil. It was a moonlit night on November 16, 2007, when Kai and Luna slipped hand in hand into the gentle waves that lapped at their secret cove. This hidden gem, tucked away on the Baía Formosa coastline, was their haven, found during one of Kai's early morning fishing trips, and still untouched by the bustling beach resorts further up the coast. Kai was a fisherman by trade. His days were spent battling the ocean's power. Nights like this were a sanctuary, a time to shed the rough image of his work and simply be a man in love. Luna, an artist from the vibrant streets of Sao Paulo, found unending inspiration in his quiet strength and the raw beauty of their surroundings. Their lives were a study in contrasts. Luna's world thrummed with music, color, and the city's relentless energy. Yet, with only the moon and stars for company, the pace slowed here. Her busy mind quieted, and her artist's soul soaked in the wild peacefulness of it all. The stress of a recent exhibit opening dissolved with each step they took into the warm embrace of the ocean. Kai, usually so serious, grinned as a wave soaked his shirt. Luna splashed him back with a mischievous giggle, unleashing a playful side he rarely displayed on land. The water deepened, the gentle coolness soothing after the day's heat. Luna had always loved the ocean and felt deeply connected to its vastness and mystery. She floated on her back, staring at the countless stars across the velvet night sky. A sense of awe washed over her. It was easy to feel small and insignificant out here, surrounded by such immensity. Kai treaded water nearby, a watchful presence. He knew the ocean better than anyone, the bounty it offered, and the hidden dangers it harbored. Brazil's coastline was home to numerous shark species drawn to the warm, food-rich waters. Encounters were rare, but he would never take chances with Luna's safety, especially after sundown. Something brushed against Luna's leg, making her jump. She laughed nervously while Kai, tense-faced, stood by her side. His eyes scanned the darkness warily. A moment later, a sleek shape surfaced near them. In the deceptive moonlight, it seemed playful, almost dolphin-like. Relief washed over Luna as a giggle escaped her lips. "See, there's nothing to worry about." She stretched out a hand as the creature circled closer, curious. But just as her fingers were about to graze its smooth skin, the shape twisted, revealing a flash of white underbelly and a gaping, tooth-filled maw. The shark was young, likely a bull shark drawn to the shallows of Baía Formosa by curiosity rather than outright hunger on this moonlit November 16th night. Yet even a juvenile shark posed a significant threat. Kai's fisherman instincts kicked in, yelling at Luna to retreat while his body moved reflexively between her and the predator. Panic surged through Luna. The playful dolphin illusion had shattered completely. This was a wild creature, and they were intruders in its domain. Kai thrashed in the water, trying to scare it off, but the shark seemed more intrigued than intimidated by his actions. It circled them, its movements disconcertingly agile in the moonlit water. Luna's heart hammered against her ribs. Her artist's eye, usually drawn to form and color, instead focused on the sharpness of the teeth, the cold gleam of the predator's eyes. Suddenly, the shark lunged at Kai, its jaws snapping shut just inches from his arm. He kicked out desperately, feeling a jolt of pain as one of the razor-sharp teeth grazed his leg. A flash of red bloomed in the water before being lost in the murky darkness. Luna screamed, a raw sound of terror. She scrambled toward the shore, her movements clumsy and frantic. The beach, which had seemed like a haven moments ago, now felt agonizingly distant. She could hear the shark behind her, its splashes a chilling soundtrack to her desperate flight. The sand was finally beneath her feet. She stumbled, falling to her knees, but forced herself to keep moving. Casting a fearful glance backward, she saw Kai reaching the shallows too, his movements slower, hampered by his injury. The shark hadn't given up, still circling menacingly just beyond the breaking waves. Exhaustion threatened to overwhelm her, but Luna knew stopping now meant certain death. Gathering the last of her strength, she staggered onto the beach and collapsed, sobbing into the coarse sand. Kai joined her moments later, his breath ragged, blood staining the leg of his shorts. They clung to each other, the steady rhythm of their heartbeats the only sound daring to break the silence of the night. As the first rays of dawn painted the horizon, the exhausted couple knew they'd narrowly escaped a watery grave. The secluded cove in Baía Formosa would never hold the same carefree allure. The events of November 16, 2007 had imprinted a primal fear on their souls, a stark reminder that the ocean was as beautiful as it was merciless. The following day, their bodies trembled with a mix of fatigue and residual terror as they told their story to the local authorities. The tale of the nighttime shark encounter was met with a mix of concern and skepticism by the seasoned fishermen. Yet the wound on Kai's leg was impossible to deny. News of the close call spread through the coastal town quickly. The regulars at the small bar Kai frequented listened to his account with grim expressions, sharing their tales of close encounters beneath the surface. Luna, her artist's spirit shaken but not entirely broken, found a strange sense of morbid fascination in these stories of the ocean's hidden power. The once secluded beach was marked with warning signs. Locals who had relied on the ocean for generations felt a twinge of unease when venturing into the waves, always conscious of the unseen dangers lurking just below the surface. Luna and Kai returned to their respective lives, forever changed by that night. Kai continued fishing, but with a newfound wariness, his eyes constantly scanning the depths. Luna returned to Sao Paulo, but the vibrant bustle of the city felt hollow after the raw terror she had faced. Her next exhibit was a stark departure from her usual style-dark, brooding canvases, depicting not the joyful energy of her beloved city, but the lurking shadows and hidden teeth of the vast, unknowable ocean. The remote island, nestled in the calm waters of the Maldives, seemed like a paradise. It was the perfect place for Emily and Tom to spend their baby moon. With its turquoise water and pristine beaches, the island was known for its wildlife. In particular, whale sharks were frequent visitors. Despite the ocean's known dangers, Emily, an expectant mother and wildlife enthusiast, couldn't pass up the chance to swim with the gentle giants. The couple walked to the dive site as the sun casts a golden glow over the water. It transformed the ocean into an expanse of shimmering water that extended to the horizon. Emily donned her snorkeling equipment, filled with excitement and nervous anticipation. She looked towards the water and imagined the magnificent creatures waiting for her beneath the surface. Emily adjusted her mask, and Tom gave her a nod of support. She plunged into the water. The coolness enveloped her. She was greeted by a colorful tapestry of corals and schools of colorful schooling fish. She floated and adjusted to weightlessness as the whale shark's shadow appeared in the water. Its massive form moved with effortless grace, belying its size. Emily was mesmerized by the sight of the whale shark. Its spotted skin passed close enough for her to see the tiny remoras that clung to its sides. She followed at a safe distance, her heart swelling with awe as she observed the peaceful interaction. The peaceful scene would only remain unbroken for a short time. Emily was unaware that her presence in the water attracted another, more dangerous ocean inhabitant. The rogue tiger shark, known for being unpredictable and aggressive, was attracted to the area by Emily's subtle chemical signals. In sharp contrast to the whale shark's calm demeanor, the tiger shark glided through the water with determined grace. Its streamlined body sliced through the currents as it neared Emily. The shark's dark, intent eyes surveyed the scene, honing in on the lone human among the ocean's giants. Emily was captivated by whale sharks and unaware of the danger lurking in the depths. She felt uneasy only when she noticed the water surrounding her suddenly becoming colder. This was a primal warning of danger. She turned slowly and saw the tiger shark, its striped body a warning in the clear waters. As the tiger shark circled, its movements were deliberate, embodying a predator focused intently on its prey. Emily understood the moment's urgency and sifted quickly through her memory, recalling all the advice she'd read about shark encounters. She held onto those crucial guidelines, knowing she needed to act swiftly. She slowly backed away, keeping her eyes fixed on the shark. Her body was tense with fear. Each move was calculated. The tiger shark seemed to consider the woman momentarily, moving its tail slowly while keeping its distance. The tiger shark was initially curious but moved forward quickly, changing its body language from curious to aggressive. Emily's return to the boat, fueled by adrenaline, was a blur. As she swam back to the ship, it seemed like the shore was far away. Her pregnancy had suddenly become a heavy burden. The water behind her churned when the tiger shark began its pursuit. It was a predator's playground that became a terrifying survival arena. Emily's frantic strokes cut the water as the Maldivian coastline loomed. It was still too far away to be comfortable. She focused on one thing: surviving. The thrashing behind her indicated that the shark was relentlessly pursuing her. Its swift movements were a blur at the corner of her eyes. Emily remembered a survival tip: make herself appear as intimidating and large as possible. She turned to face her pursuer, spreading her arms wide in an attempt to make herself seem more imposing. She vigorously slapped the water's surface, hoping the noise and movement would startle the tiger shark. For a moment, the shark seemed to hesitate, its dark eyes assessing her in the vast ocean. Emily needed those precious seconds. She resumed her swim with renewed urgency. Each stroke was a mix of fear and determination. She was drowned out by the sounds of water spouting around her. Tom, watching the horror unfold from the boat's deck, began to prepare to pull her on board as she approached the ship. His shouts alerted the crew, who rushed to help. The shark lunged at Emily's legs as she reached out her hand. Tom and his crew pulled Emily from the water with a mighty heave. Her legs were kicking just below the jaws of the shark. She collapsed on the deck after the shark's attack, her body shaking with fear and exhaustion. The crew pushed the boat quickly away from the area. The motor began to roar as they returned to safety on the main island. Emily took a deep breath, letting her breaths come in short, ragged gasps once they had a safe distance. The sun's warmth starkly contrasted with her fear of the water. Tom sat next to her. His presence was calming. The two of them didn't talk. Words weren't needed after such an encounter with nature. Each person was lost in their thoughts as they returned to the dock. Emily looked at the horizon. The peaceful colors of the sunset starkly contrasted with the deadly dance below the waves. She thought back on her decision to dive into the water. It was a choice that nearly cost her life. She reflected on her decision to enter the water, which nearly cost her everything. Emily's close-up encounter with the tiger shark was widely shared among island residents and tourists in the following days, as a reminder to be respectful and cautious when dealing with wildlife. Her story was told to highlight the natural environment's unpredictable nature and the importance of listening to local advice when interacting with wildlife. Emily took this lesson to heart. Emily's love of marine life did not change. Still, her respect for ocean predators grew, and she developed a newfound sense of caution. Her passion for conserving marine life remained unchanged, but she developed a newfound respect for the ocean's predators. Emily recovered from her shock and relived her escape. She knew this experience would forever alter her relationship with the ocean. A more profound respect shaped it because she understood that underneath its beautiful surface, the sea is a dynamic, sometimes dangerous world. It's an actual predator's play area.